There's a statement coaches use when they want to sound accountable without actually being accountable. Stephanie White delivered the masterclass version of it last night. This is on us as coaches. She said the words. She looked the part. But then, in the exact same breath, she blamed discipline, communication, positioning, and effort, none of which she claimed to control in the moment. It was a verbal sleight of hand. Confess responsibility, then immediately scattered across every player on the floor. The real tell was what she didn't say. No mention of her own lineup choices. No acknowledgement that the defensive scheme was being shredded from the opening tip. No explanation for why the paint was a welcome mat for 58 points. She gave the crowd what sounded like ownership.
Root cause of the problem.
It's when we don't consistently defend. And this is on us as coaches. Like, this is our responsibility. We got to be disciplined the entire game. We got to be disciplined every possession. We're taking chances. We're fouling shooters who are about to shoot tough shots. We got breakdowns in coverage.
But what the Fever needed was a coach willing to name her own mistakes. And that never happened. Picture this. You're standing under the basket, and an opposing guard drives right at you. You rotate late. Your help defender is 2 steps behind. The ball leaves the shooter's hand, and all you hear is the swish of a layup. That happened 58 times in one game. 58 points in the painted area isn't just a bad defensive night. It's a systemic collapse. It means your center is pulled away from the rim. Your guard are getting beaten off the dribble, and your rotations are non-existent. Washington didn't earn those points through spectacular shot making. They simply ran their offense and watched the Fever's interior defense vanish. That number is an indictment of preparation, and the woman responsible for that preparation stood at the podium and called it little things. 58 paint points are not a little thing. They're a flashing neon sign that something is fundamentally broken. Why was Aaliyah Boston, the franchise center, the defensive anchor, spending more time chasing guards on perimeter than protecting the rim? That's not a minor tactical wrinkle. It's a philosophical choice that defanged the Fever's only interior presence. And here's the dual reality nobody in that press room forced Stephanie White to confront. Not only did Boston attempt more three-pointers and paint touches in the first half, but the Fever's defensive rebounding rate plummeted to its lowest mark of the season whenever she was pulled away from the basket. So you lose the paint defensively, and you neuter your best rebounder. That's not a scheme. That's self-inflicted damage. Here's what actual accountability sounds like. It sounds like this. I made a mistake with our defensive coverages tonight. I asked Aaliyah to do too much away from the basket, and it opened up the paint. I waited too long to adjust, and that's on me. That's 5 seconds. That's a coach owning her decisions. Instead, the Fever got a word cloud of discipline, communication, and little things. Players see that. They know when a coach is protecting herself instead of protecting them. And when the franchise player has to step to the microphone and call out the team's defensive effort, that's a direct consequence of a coach who refused to lead by example. The accountability gap isn't just a media problem. It's a locker room infection. I've been in locker rooms where the energy evaporates the moment the shots stop falling. It's a sickness, and it spreads fast. Caitlin Clark didn't just criticize her team's defense last night. She named that sickness out loud. Everyone wants a guard when they're making shots. That sentence was a grenade wrapped in frustration. She was calling out the Fever's front-runner mentality. Play hard when the offense flows, and disappear the second it doesn't. You can see it on film. Missed shots led to jogging back. Turnovers became transition layups for Washington. Clark wasn't talking about the whole team. She was talking about the players who think offense earns you a pass on defense. And that distinction is everything. Here's the trend that should keep this fan base awake at night. Over their last 5 games, the Fever are surrendering 104.2 points per 100 possessions, dead last in the league over that stretch. Picture the sequence from the third quarter. A missed 3, a slow closeout, one rotation completely missed, and a Mystics forward waltzing in for an uncontested dunk. That one play is a microcosm of a systemic collapse. If this defensive trajectory holds, Indiana isn't just falling out a top 4 seed. They're staring down a play-in tournament and an early summer vacation. Front-runner teams don't win in May. They collapse in September. And the single front office decision that set this collapse in motion was made months before a single ball was tipped. One transaction. one choice to ignore the rim. And it's the reason 58 paint points was not a surprise. It was an inevitability. Monique Billings played 36 minutes last night. The Mystics' front court had a career night, and Stephanie White never took her off the floor. That's not a rotation decision. That's a flashing red signal that something is deeply wrong with this team's construction, and the coach either doesn't see it or won't act on it. Imagine being a backup big, getting beaten on backdoor cuts, watching guards fly past you, and looking to the sideline expecting a substitution that never comes. That was Monique Billings' entire night. She finished with 10 points and 9 rebounds, surface numbers that might look passable. But what the box score doesn't show is her getting sealed under the rim, her late rotations leaving shooters wide open, and the Mystics guards treating her like a traffic cone. This wasn't a talent failure. Billings is a serviceable depth piece. The failure was leaving her on the floor for 36 minutes against a front court that was feasting. The failure was a coach watching the paint get surrendered possession after possession and refusing to change the matchup. That's not strategy. That's paralysis. So why was Billings even in this position? The answer traces back to an off-season decision that never got enough scrutiny, signing Damaris Dantas instead of a true rim protector. As one league scout texted me after the game, you can't defend the paint with stretch fours and expect to survive in the playoffs. Dantas is a skilled defensive player, a floor spacer, but she's not a paint enforcer. And that's the entire problem. Not only did the Fever pass on multiple available defensive centers in free agency, but they also doubled down on a roster that forces their franchise center to cover for everyone else's mistakes. The front office built a team that looks good on a whiteboard and gets bulldozed in reality. The wreckage was on full display last night, and the coach is left holding a scheme that was doomed before training camp even started. The Fever's off-season moves weren't random. They were philosophy, and that philosophy was simple. Outscore everyone and hope the defense figures itself out. Signing Damaris Dantas, keeping a perimeter-oriented bench, and passing on available rim protectors. It all screams one assumption. The front office believed spacing, and shooting would cover up any weakness at the basket. But here's the insight most people miss. This wasn't a gamble on versatility. It was an active choice to deprioritize defense in a league where championship teams are built from the paint outward. The Aces didn't win titles by hoping their offense was hot. They won by dominating the interior on both ends. The Fever's brain trust watched that blueprint and said, no thanks. And now the bill is coming due every time an opponent drives a lane untouched. Here's what Stephanie White should have done. And it's not complicated. The first adjustment: slide Aaliyah Boston back to the 5, plant her in the paint, and dare anyone to challenge her. No more chasing shooters. No more perimeter switching. Anchor her where she dominates. The second adjustment: pull the guards who consistently leak out in transition instead of crashing the defensive glass. If you're not willing to put a body on someone, you sit. Period. The third adjustment: admit that this roster, as constructed, cannot defend at a playoff level without a scheme change. Stop force-fitting a system onto personnel that can't execute it. That's what coaching is. Adapting to what you have, not what you wish you had. And the fact that these adjustments haven't been made after multiple 100-point defensive collapses isn't just stubborn, it's negligent. And yet, despite all of this, the broken defense, the baffling rotations, the front office miscalculations, Caitlin Clark nearly willed this team to victory. The fourth quarter miracle that forced overtime should have been the story. But the question nobody in that press room asked is the one that should terrify this fan base most. Why did Clark need to perform a miracle just to force overtime against a team the Fever should handle? The answer isn't on the stat sheet. It's written all over Clark's exhausted face, buried in a locker room that's starting to fracture, and tucked inside a quote she delivered that the cameras almost missed. That's where we're going next.